Alright, chat, I'm here. How's it going? Are you having a nice Thursday? Is it a Thursday afternoon? Exciting. Tomorrow is Friday. I really used to love Fridays because you can stay up late. Then I became a streamer and I can go to bed at whatever hour I want to. Anyway, we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Apparently, British Treasure was created. The movie Adolescence, which Netflix for the first time ever race-swapped the other way around. You see it, that there was like a brutal murder in Britain that shocked the population. Apparently, a young adolescent man has killed a young adolescent woman. And Netflix looked at that and it's like, well, we gotta race swap. We gotta whiteify, we gotta whitewash. And they whitewashed it. And so now the Prime Minister of Britain is looking at this work of fiction and is like, this is a documentary. We need to show it in schools. We need to show the murder in schools. I mean, dude, it's... look, Britain, in my opinion, is the clown car of world politics. Like, hands down, like, if you want to laugh, you look at British politics and what the Brits are doing. And it's hilarious, you know? Unless you live in Britain. If you live in Britain, it's a tragedy. But it's the very definition of theater. It's like, if you live in Britain, it's a tragedy. If you live outside of Britain, it's a comedy. And now it's sparked conversations. I mean, like, you got all these ideologues that, you know, have a hate boner for white men. And it's like, well, now is the time to talk about it. And they're blaming pornography. So let me get this straight, right? Because young men watch other people fuck, they want to kill other women. Like this is the logic. This is the train that, you know, like how British people view society. It's like from porn to killing. It begs the question why other nations don't do this, right? Like, it must be something that's particularly to the air of the energy in Britain, right? Like, it must be something to British society where if you expose a British person to other people fucking, they become unhinged. Like, they become like zombies from 28 Days Later. But in other parts of the world, like, it seems that people can watch pornography without becoming violent. I don't know how they do it. You know, like, maybe British scientists, like that guy Ferguson, should be sent to other places of the world, like Eastern Europe, to figure it out. It's like, how are you guys watching other people fucking without becoming violent? Like, how do you do it? What is the secret? Like, please tell us, because, like, our nation is in dire need. It's in distress. Masculinity is the most dangerous obstacle the UK police has ever faced since Facebook Live. You know what's interesting? Like, they keep talking about toxic masculinity, but, like, why can't we talk about toxic femininity? Toxic femininity involves the ideology where you must control how everyone thinks. Like, you cannot just exist in a society where people have different thoughts. Like, no, you need to control not other people's actions, but the very mind of other people, right? And you do this by nagging and shaming. That is, in my opinion, toxic femininity. That is what brought trust and safety councils. That is what, like, constantly drives the censorship on the internet. When are we going to tackle that? Right? Like, you have people that don't commit a crime, but they're guilty because they're thinking incorrectly. Like, unless every single person in society thinks the correct thing at all times, together at once, we don't have a safe society. It is sexist? I don't care if it's sexist. You're not saying it's a lie. Right? It is what it is. So today we're going to look at one of these articles that... lectures the problem in Britain by a lady that, honestly, like, look, I usually don't make fun of people's appearances. But in this situation, like, I gotta say something, which I don't know if it's necessarily, like, a bad thing. But if I was running a telenovela, and you have the role of the evil stepmother, which is the antagonist, right? Like, for those of you who haven't watched telenovelas, I didn't either, but my abuelita used to watch them, and so the television was loud and I could hear the plot from the other room. And usually the plot is that the son, right, is very wealthy, like you have a rich, wealthy man, and he lives in a prestigious family, and he falls in love with this gorgeous woman. Like, she's got like massive milkers, you know, like she's got like really big tits, and she's absolutely gorgeous to look at. Like, she adheres to the beauty standards, and she's not rich. Like, she's from a poor family, or maybe she's got amnesia, or maybe she's just the cleaning lady, right? But like the rich son falls in love with her, much to the dismay and the horror of the stepmother, who rules her family with her iron fist, and she has plans for the son. Like, he needs to marry properly. He needs to marry the girl with little tits, but she's from a prestigious family, right? And so, like, she's going to become the antagonist. Like, she's going to try to set up this young girl with big tits. She's going to try to make her look bad. She's going to try to demean her so that her son understands the way. And so, like, if you have this character, this is a perfect person that I would cast for the role. Like, 10 out of 10. You can't find anyone better. Especially with this hairstyle, the mannerisms, like, everything. Like, perfect. Perfect for the job. Sir Gareth Southgate. Right, Sir Gareth Southgate, if I ever make a telenovela, I want to hire you. I would pay money, I'm not kidding. You guys think she could do a Cruella de Vil? No, because, like, Cruella would have to be... Like, Cruella is more flamboyant, right? Like, Cruella is into fashion. She's a lot more extravagant, more flamboyant. This is the type of person that plays the role of what was that professor at Harry Potter? The one with the teacups and the kittens and shit, right? Like, she would actually play a very good role for that. It's interesting how J.K. Rowling knew this type of character, this type of figure. Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Yes, I think she could definitely, yeah, 100%. Like, I could see her as Ursula from The Little Mermaid. She would fit the role. Yes. Absolutely. Now that you mentioned it. Cruella is skinny. That is correct. She's not skinny. She's actually skin and bones. Like, she is beyond skinny. She is brittle, I would say. Plot twist. Amnesia Bosom Wonder was his twister sister all along. By the way, why is Sargon going after Nigel Farage? Like, I've lost the plot. Again, like, Britain is this country that every now and then becomes the clown car and says something absolutely ridiculous. But now I see Sargon going after Nigel Farage. I generally don't know what this is about. Like, maybe he's got a point, maybe not. I guess, like, you know, you consider Britain to be a democracy, but then you realize that they have, like, a very weird system where even if you have, like, the overwhelming majority of people liking someone and voting for that, they can still not get enough seats. It's like the first past the post thing. Very weird. Anyway. Nigel doesn't want mass deportations. Nigel is basically a grifter and uses feminine moves to attack people. Isn't that like the definition of a Brit? Like, I'm sorry, but like, puritanical people behave this way, and Britain is a puritanical culture. Like, this is part of British politics. Nagging, shaming. How do you associate with? How could you have how can you say that? How can you think that? That is British. So, like, what? Like, he's accusing Nigel of being Bri-Ish? Nigel went after their own supporters. Oh, okay, now that's an actual reason. I see. Nigel, he let a woman into the party and tell him what to do? Is that a thing? Did he let a woman into the party? Oh my goodness. How can you allow a woman into the party? Doesn't she know it's UKIP? You shouldn't let women in UKIP. It's you know, like the left should allow men and women. Like, the left should be able to form a coalition that represent the interests of multiple people so they can get maximum number of votes, while the right should only allow cisgender, straight, nationalistic men so they can have, like, a tiny fringe minority so they can never win elections, right? Unless you're, like, 100% on board, you should not be allowed in the right so that you can allow the left to win. I know this is a big L take. Yes, sure, absolutely. You know, don't do what Trump did and form a coalition, because that's the key to victory. You know, like, Trump is like, all right, well, let's see, the libertarians, what do you guys want? let's see, the LGBT. What do you guys want? You know, like he did all that. He did a coalition. That's not the correct way of behaving, right? Like the correct way of behaving is having like an ideology that's outside the overtone window, and you only allow men, and you purity spiral every single one of them. If a single one of them says something nasty, they don't belong in your movement. Meanwhile, the left, they don't care what you say as long as you vote for them, right? Like they formed the coalition. The left is about winning. The right is to be under the boot. France was a mistake. To be fair, like I would rather live in France than live in Britain right now. Like I think, no, seriously, like I think France is actually a better country than Britain. That is a problem with the erosion of culture, though, because there used to be, you know, like you thought about France and it had like the French culture, and you thought about Germany and it was like the German culture, but now, like, what are they actually recognized for? Like, what when you think of France, what do you think of? You know? Anyway. The left cares what you say. No. The left, like, they don't really care what you say. They care about what you can do for them, right? So, like, look at Destiny and Vosh, for instance. Like, both Destiny and Vosh said a lot of dumb shit. No one cared while they were useful. The moment you stop being useful, that's when they start caring about what you say. Did you hear that Macron's wife is a man like Big Mike? I did see that, that there was, like, a French NGO that went after Candace Owens, forbidding her from talking about that. And I also saw an interview with Tucker Carlson where he said that, well, Candace Owens, like, she's a nice lady, and I talked to her, like, she's very smart. But then she told me that the wife of the French president is a man, and she's willing to stake her entire career on it. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, look, you shouldn't do this. This is ridiculous. And she did it, and she was right. That's what Tucker Carlson said. And so, I don't know. I haven't looked into it. The thing is, though, like, who would care? Like, it's France. Did you not see the French Olympics? Right? Like, this is another thing that Americans don't understand. Well, people from the Anglosphere don't get, right? Like, they think that their morality applies to the world. They believe in this nonsense called objective morality. But the reason is, like, you have to apply the morality of the nation you're talking about, right? So, like, if you're talking about France, and you're looking at the French Olympics, and you're saying that the French president's wife is a man, well, that's a good thing for the French. Like, they would vote for him. Like, you're basically, like, telling them, yes, no, that's great, that's our president, right? Like, that's not really an argument to go after Macron. It's France, right? Now, if Macron was in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, then yeah, like, that would be an argument. That he would actually get in trouble. That would be a scandal. But it's France. Like, if you're not aware, in France, every single president besides Macron had a mistress. But I now can understand why Macron doesn't have a mistress if the allegations are true, right? And so, like, you need to apply the standard of the nation you're in, right? Like, this multicultural bullshit doesn't work. The melting pot doesn't work. No. Like, if we're talking about France, you need to apply French virtues and French standards when you talk about French politicians. Macron was groomed. What if he did the grooming? Why do we assume that he was groomed? The only thing that I know about Macron are two videos. In one video, there was like you know, he was in a group of people shaking hands, and someone, a little boy, I think he was like 16 or 14. But anyway, like, a little boy tells Macron, and he's like, no, you don't say Macron, it's President Macron. It's President Macron. Like, you need to learn manners, right? So, like, he's educating this boy on manners. Which, you know, is a good thing. Like, you should definitely educate the kids about manners. But I wish he had the same energy when he took this photo. Right? Like, I wish he had the same energy about manners, you know, like, you should educate the gentleman next to him. No, I am the president. You cannot show the middle finger. The middle finger is offensive. You can show the middle finger to your friends, but right now we are in an official capacity. We are taking photos for the press, like the entire public is going to see me. And this is not okay. It is not okay for you, for me, but it is not okay for you. What will they think about your mother? Like, think about your mama. How did she raise you? Did she raise you to show the middle finger when in front of the president? No, no, no. So basically, you shouldn't do it. You can do the gangsta signs because that's part of your culture. I'm not going to judge, right? Like, this is what your people created and brought forth to humanity. The gangsta signs, I will not talk about that. But the middle finger, that is from Britain. That is the British way of expressing themselves, and we will not have it here in France, especially not in front of the reporters. Right? So, like, this is how I would have handled the conversation, but unfortunately... Are you going to buy Assassin's Creed Shadow? Absolutely not. Not after what I've seen. Apparently, Ubisoft is going to... this is not JF. No, I haven't murdered my wife yet. Apparently, Ubisoft is going to go after people that criticize them, right? Sue our fans! Rock till never land. I mean, that went great for Metallica, didn't it? HK9410, thank you for the super chat. I see that you're more poor now. You used to donate me the red super chats. The red super chats, but now they're yellow, but I thank you for them nonetheless. How's it going? My favorite gypsy vampire enjoyed the small piece of cigar fund on my birthday. Well, everyone, I want you to wish happy birthday to HK9410, who is now $10 poorer. Does Ubisoft rule over you? Hey, Ubisoft is the company that decided to have a hotline to the cops if you do the speech of hate on their platform, right? So if you do the speech of hate, they go after you. But now if you criticize the game, they go after you. It's fantastic. I mean, it's fucking Christ. Can this picture be labeled as American soft power because the exporting of hood culture seems to be working, says Jacob Andrew. You know, that's actually an interesting conversation that Thomas Sowell talks about. And there is a huge difference between African Americans in the United States and black people in Britain. Like, seriously, if you guys travel between the two nations, like, you will notice a major difference in culture, behavior. And the reason is that, yeah, like, shaming works. You know, the same way that Britain shames young men for being incels. It actually adjusts behaviors. In America, black people used to have jazz music, used to be like creating culture that, again, it breaks out of the United States, right? Like, everyone liked jazz music, and it was pleasant to listen to. It was awesome, right? It enriched them as well. And then jazz music was suppressed by the left. It's like, oh, you only like black people for jazz music. Oh, that's the only thing. So they suppressed jazz music, and instead they promoted gangster culture, gangster music. Interesting, isn't it? HK9410 wants to thank everyone for their birthday wishes. Synthetic Man was sued? Not yet. But I worry for him. With Ubisoft's new policy, I hope he doesn't pick up the game. Disco, soul, and R&B. Was disco pioneered by African Americans? Because I generally don't know. Like, I didn't catch the disco time. Again, I'm not for censorship, but man, like, you listen to the Wet Ass Pussy music video, right? Or you listen to, like, some of the gangster music, and it's like, it's just vile, you know? It's glorifying crime, it's glorifying violence. I'm not, like, look, if my son ends up listening to these things, I'm not going to be upset or anything, right? I'm just going to be disappointed. I won't even tell him, but I'm like, why can't you listen to Metallica? Why can't you listen to something, you know, like, more uplifting or whatever? I'm just saying, you know, like, what? Like, The lyrics are the problem, and it's not just the lyrics that are the problem, but like the music itself is so fucking cheap to make. Like it's almost like reciting a poem. Like you're not really singing, you're just talking while music is playing in the background. I don't know. Maybe I'm just becoming a boomer and I'm complaining about what the young generation likes. Yeah, Sabaton. I think like Sabaton is a really great band. You know, singing about historical shit. V, you like close to Kattenberg. What's your thoughts on Kingdom Come 2? I haven't played Kingdom Come 2. I think that, obviously the developer is woke. And by woke, what I mean is they tried pushing that ideology into the game in order to persuade people of certain talking points. So, like, for instance, there's a Muslim character there, and, you know, despite the fact that it's an RPG, you can't hurt the character, you can't attack the character, but, like, that is an important character to the storyline, and he acts arrogant and a prick, and the idea is that, well, his culture is better than the German culture, right? So, like, he is superior to everyone else. And then you also have the Jewish quarter, apparently. And this, you know, like this is the difference between Baldur's Gate and Kingdom Come 2. Like, if the game if Baldur's Gate took place in the Kingdom Come 2 universe, then you could side it with the Jews, you could side it against the Jews, you could actually organize the program or whatever, you could be against it, right? But from what I understand, like, in that game, you're forced to defend the Jewish people. And that's what woke is. It's like taking away players' agency. Like, if you want to play as a cheeky little shit, you can't play as a cheeky little shit. You gotta be confined to, like, one way of playing. I don't care about the gay stuff. And I keep saying this. I don't know why people are shocked. You know, like, I even got called a grifter. And, like, no, I would be a grifter if I did care about the gay stuff. Because when social justice was at its finest, I would actually get bonus points if I cared about the gay stuff, right? But no, like, I said it back then and I say it now. I don't care about it. And the reason I don't care about it is that it was in Mass Effect. It was in Dragon Age. It was in a lot of other games. I genuinely don't give a shit about the gay stuff at all. I will talk about it. I will say that it exists so that if you guys care about it, you can choose not to buy the game. Like, that's fine. But, like, I personally don't care. Unless, you know, it's forced, then I care. But if it's like a side quest that it's optional, I don't fucking care. There's a lot of gay shit in anime. I don't care. Like, gayness itself isn't the problem. The problem is when you force it on the person. Right? Like, if it's an optional thing, I don't care. I don't care that Alex Jones likes to watch transgender porn on his phone or whatever. These are things that generally don't bother me. I don't care if they're there, right? I'm not going to change my mind on Alex Jones, just like I don't change my mind on a game if it has a gay sex scene in it. Okay, Mass Effect 3 has gay sex. Who fucking cares? False equivalence. All those games had creatable protagonists. I don't care. Even if those games, like, let's say that Mass Effect didn't allow you to customize your character and it still had the gay sex scene in it, I wouldn't care. But again, like, just because I don't care, that doesn't mean that I would talk about it so that you, who cares, get to know. Right? Like, if you care about that and you don't want to buy the game because of that, that's fine. I won't judge you. You know, like, at the end of the day, the way you spend your money is your business. And so if you want to buy something, that's fine. If you don't want to buy something, that's also fine. My job is not to nag you on what to buy. My job is to tell you and to inform you. And I will do my best to say, yeah, like, this game actually does have a gay sex scene in it. Alex Jones, if I'm not mistaken, like, was caught watching transgender pornography on his phone. Like his phone was open in a video, and that was in it. And it's like, okay, fine. You know, it is what it is. At least the accusations are there. I'm not sure if it actually ended up true or not. Retconning bad, just saying. Depends what you retcon. Like, some retcons are actually good. Battlestar Galactica was an amazing retcon. So like the original Battlestar Galactica was just a basic bitch TV show where, you know, like Cylons were the bad guys and there were aliens and stuff. But when they retconned Battlestar Galactica, and you guys probably know it because you've seen it, was amazing. So it depends. 2 + 2 = 5. Thank you, JDA. Do Asian women like Yasuke? From what I know, like the entire Japanese government is against Ubisoft right now. I don't think anyone likes Yasuke at all. Men or women from Japan. Like there is there are certain things that if a game developer does, I will not buy their game. The first one that they do is pronouns. If I see pronouns in the game, I'm not buying it. The second one is insulting the fan base. If it insults the gamers, right? So like if you have someone calling gamers misogynistic, toxic, whatever, and that person is associated with the production, I'm not buying the game. If the men look like women, sorry, if the women look like men, the aesthetics are just no, right? And those are like the three things. And probably, you know, like if the game is like I played not Last of Us. Fuck was it called? The one where your superpower is empathy. The Tumblr game, Life is Strange. Right, I play Life is Strange. Like, the first one was a good game. I actually liked it. But the third one, you know, I still bought it because it had like none of the things that upset me. But it was boring as fuck. Like, it was such a fucking boring game. Right, I couldn't enjoy it. And so, like, the problem with that game wasn't necessarily the wokeness, which was there. Like, in fact, I would encourage woke people to make their own franchises. Because that's, like, one of the things that pisses me off about wokeness. Is that they co-opt other franchises. Like, I would probably be fine if they just make their own shit. And so when they do make their own shit, I'm willing to give it a try. It's like, okay, well, they made their own shit. Let's see how good it is. And I just got maximum disappointment from it. Yeah, I never finished those streams because I couldn't get myself to do it. You know, I'm not like Darkside Phil who can't finish a game because it's too hard. It's too hard. No, the game wasn't too hard. It was just so fucking boring that I couldn't get myself to finish it. Kingdom Come 2 is woke trash. I don't think it's woke trash because, like, it's still sold, right? So, like, there's room for improvement. Like, you can make it even more woke, I guess. JDA79. I don't need anyone to tell me where to get my buyer's remorse. Well, I thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Didn't just Life is Strange game win a reward and no one was there to receive it? I don't fucking... I don't even watch, like, gaming awards now because they're incredibly fake. Right? Like, it's just like a marketing tactic at this point. Everything is rigged. At least that's the vibe that I get. Be right back. Gotta get myself another beer. Just give me a second. That I'm here. Normally I don't drink, but today I'm making an exception. Once you get to Kuttenberg, the game is boring. I didn't like the first game either, though. The combat was really bad. And so I couldn't get into it. It is what it is. You know, like there aren't that many good games now anyway. except for the ones that I'm playing. Like I already made the video about I think it's like Rezone Collapse or something like that. Company of Heroes I'm playing now, and I'm also trying to play Terra Invicta again. A lot of people think that I'm playing a lot of Gunnar games and I'm into degeneracy and shit. No. I just hate it when people are being Karens. That's the only thing that I hate. American Outlier is here. UK sinking into the abyss. Yes, okay, fine. Let's talk about the subject of the day. And so, as you guys know, if you didn't join the stream, there was like a vicious murder that shook the United Kingdom. Now, there's many murders in the United Kingdom, but like this one was particularly ghastly. A teenage boy murdered a teenage girl. And so Netflix, they looked at it and they whitewashed it, right? Like they also, they didn't just whitewash it, but they changed the reason for the murder. In their mind, it's because like the teenage white boy was watching Andrew Tate and similar rhetoric online, right? Like he was watching edgy right-wing memes online and shit, and that made him be a murderer. And so the British government, like the British Prime Minister, called it a documentary. It wasn't a documentary, it was a work of fiction. But now he wants to show the murder, right? Like to show the murder film, the snuff film, into schools. It's like every child needs to see the murder. Which, you know, like it's fine. Like that's fine. You know, you want to show shocking films to children. Like, I understand. You're a leftist. You got a leftism. Like that's what leftists do. But the interesting thing is, they're doing it because this is going to lower the crime rates, I assume, right? I'm willing to allow it to happen, but like, can we have some accountability attached? Like, can we look 2 years in the future, and if the crime rates didn't go down, then you resign? Can we do that, right? Like, if the crime rates go down, you get a statue. You get a statue, because like, oh my goodness, look at the accomplishment you did for your nation. Like, who would have thought, right? Like, just showing a film to people lowers the crime rates. Like, if only we can make a film to show to Putin so he doesn't invade Ukraine. Like, if we only can make a film in order to lower inflation. If only we can make a movie so politicians can stop taxes more, right? Like, this is how it works, right? It's all about fiction, like fiction uber alles. We dominate through fiction. Okay, fine, you know, maybe this is a way of thinking, a new school of thought that I haven't really considered. But if it doesn't work, not only should you resign, you should make a public apology and say, look, I tried to tackle a problem that was way beyond, above my pay grade. I'm an absolute imbecile and I don't know how to tackle it. And maybe I'm stepping down to allow someone else that's much more enlightened than me and smarter than me, who understands human nature better than me, to tackle a problem that might actually need more things to do than showing people a movie. In reality, it's obviously a grift, right? Like, I don't think that showing the movies in schools is going to be free. Like, someone somewhere is getting taxpayer money for it. So it's an obvious grift. And secondly, like, the movie benefits the politicians. It empowers them to justify more censorship. And Britain is becoming a totalitarian state when it comes to censorship. Like, I wonder if there is a single censorship tactic that China is doing that Britain hasn't picked it up yet. No, serious question. Like, I'm not even joking with this. Like, is there something that China does to its people when it comes to censorship that the United Kingdom hasn't already copied? Like, please let me know. I'm not even joking. Like, this is not... it's an honest question. And so, the thing that politicians fear the most is a threat to their power. This movie empowers them. But if I were to make a movie about, I don't know, like a third immigrant kid that converts to a radical form of Islam and then murders a classmate, do you think, like, Netflix would allow that movie to go through? Of course it wouldn't. Why? Because it would raise the politicians as being accountable. Like, it would say that their policies have led to this. Like, why weren't they capable of stopping it? And so, like, if people ask those questions, well, now the politicians are in problem. And this is, you know, like, it's not, despite the fact that I'm for free speech, we don't have free speech. Like, certain movies are suppressed, other movies are promoted. And so this is the issue that you're having in the UK. So now you have, like, people, Kathy Newman. So what you're saying is, Sir Gareth Southgate says boys need more positive role models to stop them turning to online influencers, gaming, or porn. Again, like the mindset now is that because boys are watching other people fucking, they become unhinged criminals, which, you know, how do other nations manage to handle this situation? Like, we have people watch other people fucking here in Romania, yet we don't have the same crime rates. So maybe, you know, Britain can send a team of experts and scientists and smart people to figure out, like, what do the Romanian people have? Like, how do they manage to watch other people fuck without committing crimes? The former England manager criticized those he called callous, manipulative, and toxic influencers, and said they were tricking young men into thinking that only money or physical dominance was important. Well, listen, lady, okay? When you're poor, then you make the argument that money isn't important. Because I hear this cancerous argument from a lot of leftards on Twitter, and now I hear it from some right-wingers too. Money isn't important. Money isn't important. When you pay the electricity bills with your ideology, when you pay the electricity bills with your nice feelings, then we can have a conversation, you know? But until then, I have a family. I can't tell my wife, hey, you know, today we're going to eat a nice dose of moral virtue and we're going to pay the electricity bill with ideology. And we're all like, no, that doesn't work. No, like boys, especially in the UK, are worried about not being able to get a job. Like they're worried about not getting able to have a roof on top of their heads. Right? It's not like they're already wealthy and they want to be even more obscenely wealthy. Like they already have mansions and now they want to travel abroad and buy a house in Fiji. No, like they're actually poor and they're concerned about their future. So yes, like for them, money is important. If it's not important for you, donate the money. Give it to charity. Oh, you're not? I wonder why. And they also talk about, you know, like... We need to have better influencers for boys, but they never mention, like, who do you think is a good role model for boys? And I'm talking about a role model that embraces masculinity, right? Because, like, it would be horrible if we tell women to stop being feminine, right? Like, you wouldn't do that, because that would be abuse. That would be similar to praying the gay away. Like, a person is born the way they are, right? And the left agrees that praying the gay away is abhorrent, right? Like gay conversion, deconversion therapy is something that's a crime against humanity. But like for some reason, demasculinizing men is not a crime against humanity. Like, no, I'm sorry, that's not true, right? Like there are people that are men and they want to embrace the gender role because that's what makes them feel comfortable. And for some reason, you say, well, maybe it's possible, but we shouldn't allow to be toxic masculinity. I've never seen toxic masculinity defined. And I've never seen, like, healthy masculinity defined. Right? So, like, for instance, physical dominance is bad. No, it's not. Here's the difference. If you cannot... if you aren't a person capable of causing violence, you can't be peaceful. You're just harmless. Right? A person that cannot be violent to the point where he can dominate others... that is not a peaceful person. That is a harmless person. A peaceful person is a person that's capable of being a monster but chooses not to. Unless the situation arises, right? So like when they have to defend their family, when they have to defend someone, when they're standing up for what's right, that's when they bring the monster. That is a person that's peaceful. A person that chooses to never empower themselves, to never be able to defend others, that is a harmless person. The British government, right, like Keir Starmer, isn't a harmless person. He has the power to summon a lot of men that can unleash their bestial rage on protesters, right? Like, he can summon the riot police, he can summon the officers, he can summon the military, so he can summon that masculine rage. He is not a harmless person, right? He understands the role of violence. But you're telling the people that no, like, we need a society where no one is violent, everyone is meek, everyone is harmless, and the only people that should have power is the government, which just happens to be us. Yeah, I disagree with that take. I much like the American take where everyone has a gun. It's actually a lot better that the Americans understood the difference between them and the British. To be fair, like, the British also knew how to govern properly when they would train every single peasant to have a longbow and to fire with it, right? Because they weren't afraid of their people, they were afraid of the French. It's like, well, if the French knights come, our peasantry knows how to use bows. By the way, the French were absolutely horrified by this thing. The idea of a peasant killing a knight was... USAID and people like Oracle have given Stonewall and Tory Brain Institute hundreds of millions of billions of public can't find that money. Clown laws. I will say something else about the grift in a bit. The reason that America grift with USAID is failing is because of the mindset, right? And so I'm looking at grifts in Eastern Europe that have lasted throughout decades. And especially like if you look at Turkey, like Turkey's grifts have lasted for like hundreds of years. So like what is a grift? A grift is a way for the politicians and the people in charge to suck taxpayer money, right? To corruption, basically. If you look at the United States, the grifts were one-sided. Like all of the grifts were left-leaning. And before that, all of the grifts were right-leaning. So like what is right-leaning grifts? Right-leaning grifts would be we're sending condoms to Africa, but we also teach Africans about religion, right? So like if they buy a Bible, if they read the Bible, they get food. Like that actually used to be done during the Bush era and before that. And the people benefiting from this were the Christian groups, right? Like Christian NGOs, basically. Like you'd have like a Christian NGO that's like a missionary thing. We go to Africa. They get a lot of money. They pocket some of that cash. And then they go to Africa and they give some of the food. But anyway, right? Like that, the bureaucracy would handle it. So that was like a right-wing grift, right? Now you have left-wing grifts. And in the future, we will have probably right-wing grifts as well. Why is this a thing? Well, because America doesn't allow the grift to be shared between the left and the right. And so, like, if you're in power, you have your grift, which should be, like, majority with the people that are allied to you, right? So, like, it's fine if like, 60% of the grift is made with leftists. But then you have, like, the other 40% where you include some right-wingers, where you include some libertarians, where you include some other people, right? And why do you do this? Well, let's assume that USAID would actually have like 20% of right-wingers grifting. Well, when Trump would try to go against USAID, like he would have Republicans from his party telling him, no, you're not going to do this. Because if you do this, you know, you're going to need us at some point to pass some law. You're going to need us to do something for you. And we're not going to be there. Like, I'm warning you, if you do this, if you fuck with USAID, we are not going to back you on a bill that you will need in the future. And then you have, like, people on the other side, on your camp, right? But the American morality is like, no, like, we're right, we're not going to work with the opposition at all. And so, like, they create grifts that are 100% on their team. And you notice that Turkey doesn't do this. Eastern Europe doesn't do this. And this is why our grifts last longer. Again, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, obviously, grifts aren't a good thing. But the reality is that every nation grifts. Like, every single nation on planet Earth, without exception, throughout time and history, grifts. And so, I don't know. Like, whether you want grifts to be stable or not, I guess. JFK founded USAID, CIA use it as a slush fund. I don't think, like, the people that funded it may have foreseen the way it's going to be used, right? So, like, they may not have realized the intention of the people that on how USAID would end up in 2025, basically. US actually fractured into 3 competing parties? Oh, it's probably more than 3. Like, you have the Squad with the Democrats, which I think, like, the Squad is a lot more popular than it's represented. Like, there's a lot more people that agree with the Squad than there are people in the Squad, if you will. Then you have, like, the business Democrats that will say and do whatever it takes so that their grifts keep going. And then on the right, on the right you have like a big coalition now. I would say like the coalition on the right is a lot more bigger than the right-wing party itself, right? So you have Donald Trump, which is like the MAGA movement. You have like Christians, like unironically Calvinists, Christo-fascist level of thinking. Like the idea that like we need to force every single person, every single man, woman, and child within the United States of America to be Christian and to share the values of my denomination. So it's not just like Christian, like, no, my denomination. Like, we need to force the Mormons to be Catholic or Mormons to be Protestants, right? So you have those. They're not a lot, but they exist. You have the rhinos. You have the libertarians. Like right now, the right coalition is quite big, I would say. You have people that are apolitical, but they just want to fuck the left. And so it's a much more big coalition on the right in 2025 than the left used to have, which is kind of weird because like usually the left are the coalition makers. APAC is everywhere. Like I can't say like there is an APAC group when APAC is like predominantly in both the Republicans and the Democrats. Have the founding fathers were deists? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's like, can you be a Christian if your neighbor isn't? Like, can you actually manage to worship Christ if your neighbor doesn't? Now, let's say the answer is no, right? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to force your neighbor to be a Christian if he doesn't want to? Well, if you're going to try to do that, then you're going to be hostile. Well, actually, it's the way you're doing it, right? So how are you going to force your neighbor to be a Christian? Like, are you going to try to improve your life to the point where your neighbor wants to be like you, right? And then he will convert. Like, that's one way to do it. That's the peaceful way. But if you're going to try aggressively, like to force your neighbor into virtue, even though he doesn't want it, well, hostility builds resentment. And so there's no wonder that Christians are being oppressed everywhere if this is like the standard, if this is the behavior. It's like, I'm going to force other people into my worldview. Because from their point of view, right, like they don't look at your religion as being from God or being... No, like they're looking at that an ideology. And it's the same way that you feel when woke people are forcing their values on you, and now you have spite and disdain towards the wokeness. The same way they feel when you force your values upon them. And that's what leads to oppression. That's what leads to the problems that happened during the Obama when they went against Christianity, right? And so, like, unless you're willing to have this conversation, you're always going to just spin the wheel. And the spinning of the wheel seems to be like in America. You have, like, some really hardcore Christians, and then you have the hippie movement. And the hippie movement causes some really hardcore Christians, like the Bush people. And then you have, like, the Obamas, right? It's just normal. Like, it just happens. And it will happen again and again and again. And I think it's the Protestant nature with absolutism. Like, where there's no negotiation, there's no middle ground. Like, let me show you about an example, right? Because I posted this today on Twitter. And I had an interesting talk about it. But I posted this, right? Give me a second. So I posted this, and I asked, is this what gamers want? And a lot of people were laughing, because obviously, you know, it's funny. It's a hilarious thing. Like, is this what gamers want? And then you had someone, it's like, well, this is pornography. And I'm like, oh, come the fuck. How is it pornography? Like, this is erotica. Like, the woman is fully clothed. There's not, you can't see anything. There's no pen. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, but the purpose is to arouse. And so, okay, well, if this is your standard, right? So you make no difference between this and actual penetration. Then what's the point of not just having just penetration then? Because, like, we can just morally decouple from you because you can't see any middle ground. And there's no point in trying to please you or trying to do concessions for you because, like, you're going to be stubborn about it. So we're just going to count like how many people in society are like you. We're going to realize it's a minority, and then we get just to do whatever the fuck we want. Right? Like, there's no point in trying to accommodate you. There's really no point in trying to find a middle ground with you, because you're just going to be the same way. And this is what people realize with the wokes, right? Like, with the wokes, it's like, okay, there's no middle ground with you guys. Like, there's no pleasing you. You're perpetually offended. Like, no matter what concessions we do, no matter what we give you, you're still not happy. So go fuck yourselves then, right? Like, you live in your part of the world. We're going to do whatever we want, and we don't care about your morality anymore. And this is pretty much what happened during the Obama era with the creationists. It's like, okay, well, we tried to find the middle ground. We tried coexisting with you, but you guys don't want to coexist. Turns out there's more of us, there's less of you, and so we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. And that like, this is just repeating itself. It's just Anglospheric neo-Protestant culture, and it's just doomed to repeating over and over and over again. Who's the artist? I genuinely don't fucking know. Like, I just found it on a Discord. Imagine seeing mildly suggestive imagery and going it's full porn. Yeah, like, and the thing is, like, I don't believe that person doesn't watch actual pornography, you know? Like, it's a multi-trillion-dollar business. Some people must watch it in order to justify that fine, especially when it's free. This is what blows my mind about porn. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business, and it's free, and yet it still makes money. How the fuck? Yeah, Protestantism is the problem because they rely on sola scriptura. In other words, like a random person interpreting the Bible based on his wishes and the current events. And so they're going to have an interpretation where the things they don't like are really bad and the things that they do like are really good, right? And so, like, the people interpreting the Bible, they're going to try to get cheap virtue points. It's like going after porn. Like, who's going to stop them, right? But they don't go after gambling. They don't go after drinking. Because they did in the past, and it had, like, really bad consequences. The anime to furry pipeline is real? I don't think it is. Like, I think there was an actual war. Like, in fact, you can place people on the political moral compass based on the porn they consume. The furries are far left, and the anime Nazis are far right. For some fucking reason, people who like Yuri are far left. I don't know. People that like Monster Girls seem to be centrists. Did you notice that shit? I can't explain it, but it's true. It's true. Like, you find a person that like Monster Girls, 9 out of 10 times, they're a centrist. I can't. Furry's far left. Now, there are outliers, there are exceptions, of course. But if we're talking about, like, the fandom as a whole, that's not how Protestantism works. Am I talking about evangelicalism? Neo-Protestantism, I think. Neo-Protestantism. There we go. The collectivist tendencies are more Catholic? Probably. But Catholicism is nice until you get a pope like the current one. You get a pope like the current one and then you're fucked. Honestly, I may be a little bit more subjective here. But I think orthodoxy is the best. Because tradition and ritual serves a purpose. Like, in our country, if something existed for like 2 or 3 decades, we don't fuck with it. And the reason is because if you fuck with it, you may have like unforeseen consequences. Right? Like, for instance, alcohol, right? Like, the church will talk against alcohol and drinking and it will call it a sin, but they will never try to ban alcohol. Why? Because we had alcohol for hundreds of years. So it's a tradition that people have alcohol, right? And so, like, they will never consider the act of banning alcohol, ever. Because if they ban it, they go like, okay, I mean, it sounds good, but, like, what are the other consequences? Well, we can't know them, right? So, like, tradition is important. The Pope from Uganda is the best? There's no way he's going to be Pope. There is no way. American Outlier really likes him. I don't think he's going to be Pope. It would be funny though if they do it. Anyway, let's go and keep reading this shit. So, Caitlin, what about men? Why do you think it is that so many young men are drawn to this kind of Andrew Tate misogyny? It's very simple to explain. Kamala Harris was dealing with the problem of not being able to reach white men. Young men in particular, but you know, like she would also bring up the ethnicity. You're not offering anything, right? Like, there is no room for masculinity on the left. Like, the left is all about making men meek. But, like, what if I don't want to be meek? What if I want to be the type of man that protects my family? The problem with authoritarianism is like, no, you shouldn't protect your family. The government protects your family. It's like, I'm sorry, but I want to be the head of the household. No, you can't be the head of the household. The government is the head of the household. Like you guys, you know, Kathy Newman attacked Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was a person at the time, before his brain was fried by the American healthcare complex, or was it the Canadian? Before his brain got fried, he was actually a very well-spoken person that was offering young men a lifestyle much better than Andrew Tate. Like, to be fair, you know, I may support fan service and anime, but that's fictional. I don't like what Andrew Tate is doing, where he's talking about being a womanizer, smokes cigars, and drives Bugattis, right? I don't think like that's the type of life that I want my son to have. I want my son to have a stable marriage, have kids, and I don't give a shit if he watches anime, right? But I don't want him to be a womanizer. I don't think that brings happiness. I don't think that's, you know, a key to success. And so Jordan Peterson was offering much better advice, but you guys didn't like him, you threw him away, so you do get the Andrew Tate. And if you throw Andrew Tate away, you're going to get someone even worse. So apparently it's because Andrew Tate had the monopoly on information on the boys. Yeah, because you scared everyone else. And you don't create anything. When I started writing my book about boys, I went to the bookstore shop and went to the men's section so I could start researching men. That's such a bad fucking take. Researching men, like there's some... Why don't you talk to men? You know, like there was that feminist that disguised herself as a man. And then she had to stop doing it because she got so fucking depressed. But like that's the way you should actually do it, right? Like disguise yourself as a man. And live amongst men, and that's how you do your research. You don't fucking read it. Oh, you know the theory because like some other person with daddy issue wrote something about men. Oh, never mind. She says that no bookshop has a men's section, where every bookshop has a women's section. What's another thing? You know, like men don't like reading about men. That's the reason. Like I don't need to read about what a man is. I just fucking know. Women like reading shit about women. I don't know. But it is what it is. We've been very good about giving women advice all the way, but never gave men advice. And my problem with the manosphere, and particularly Andrew Tate, is it's really impractical advice. No, that's literally the point. You don't even fucking know Andrew Tate's advice. So while Andrew Tate may live a degenerate lifestyle that I disagree with, the advice that he gives, not all, but some of it is actually good. And it does resonate with men. Go to the gym, work out, be on a diet, lose weight. Which one of these do you disagree with? I mean, this is advice that you should give to men. Yeah, like, have self-esteem, have self-respect for yourself. This is stuff that Andrew Tate is saying. This is true. Even if Andrew Tate is saying, if Hitler himself said this, it would still be true. It doesn't matter who says it. It's universally true. Yeah, if you're a man, you should have self-esteem. You should have self-respect. You should go to the gym. You should work out. You should lose weight. This is just basic bitch stuff. It's like Andrew Tate saying gravity exists and people are baffled. The whole thing's built around being hench, earning money from crypto pyramid schemes, and blaming everything on wokery and mouthy women. Well, don't you think like some things can be blamed on wokery and mouthy women? And also, Andrew Tate doesn't tell you to, like from what I've seen, I mean, maybe he does, I don't fucking know. Um, but he doesn't give financial advice in his videos. Like, he gives health advice. Like, maybe he changed. Maybe I'm not an Andrew Tate viewer, by the way. Like, I don't follow him religiously. But like, I did come into contact with his shit on Twitter. Like, I did read a couple of stuff that he says. What happens when your mom gets cancer, your friend gets depressed? How's that going to sustain you through life? Stoicism is going, like, yeah, bad shit will happen. Your parents will die. Right? Like, you need to be a stoic. Because if you start bursting into tears in front of your mom that has cancer, you're not going to fix her problem. You're not going to do well. No, you need to champion through. That's what a man does. And you need to help her and take care of her until she's no more. What do you say? People always say to me, well, it's feminism and it's all the focus on girls' rights that have pushed boys away. You know, there's nothing for them. It's all about you. What do you respond to that? Well, I mean, when you have groups of women that are making hashtag yes all men trending, and they're talking that yes all men rape, and that's trending, how do you think men feel? When you have women that say they would rather be alone in the woods with a bear than with a man, how do you think the men feel? Do you not feel that that's alienating? Like, if men had the same talking points but about women. I mean, I remember a man making the post, who would you rather share your vulnerabilities to, a woman or a tree? And people were picking the tree and women were livid. Right? So you don't like it when the shoe is on the other foot. But you don't have empathy when you're doing it to others. It's always amazing when people say that, because that predates the idea that the internet is 1 inch long. There's no space for people to talk about these things. Well, there isn't. You have Trust and Safety Council. You ban people that talk about things. There's no space for people to talk about the things. I saw a woman today making a holster for her mobile phone out of a flip-flop. There's room for everybody to talk about these things. No, there isn't. You have an army of censors that prevent people from talking about things. In fact, when Andrew Tate talks about things, you make a movie that name drops him, and then you demonize him. And by the way, I'm not on Andrew Tate's side. Like, far from it. I even mentioned he's a bad example. But I'm just saying, like, when someone is trying to say stuff that you don't like, you try to censor them. And if you do that, like, that's fine. You know, you can try to censor people, but don't say that there's a space for everyone, because there literally isn't. I mean, YouTube just banned MGTOW. Top to bottom. What was MGTOW? It was like middle-aged men that were upset about their marriages, and they were saying that, yeah, it's time for us to go on our own way, and we're not going to marry anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And so you guys hated that, and you banned them. So no, that, like, the internet isn't a space for everyone. In the last decade, feminism has been huge, that girls all the time and hearing the future is female, here are 50 role models from the past. Boys won't have heard that. When was the last time you saw something that showed 50 boys who are going to change the world, 50 boys who are the future, blah, blah, blah. You know, I do agree with Caitlin Moran here. Like, she does have a point. But at the end of the day, I don't think that role models should be found through media. I think role models should be found through parents, through like strong people, friends. Elon Musk is a role model. You know, like, that's another interesting thing. Like, all the men that are role models, the media dismantles. But in my opinion, Elon Musk is a very good role model. I mean, he is the richest man in the world. He manages to still play his hobbies. Whether or not he's botting, that's a different story. But he does play Path of Exile, and he likes video games and cat girls and shit. He launches rockets into space. He's a geek. He's got a lot of women. He's got a lot of children. I don't like the fact that he doesn't have a stable marriage. But, you know, it can't be perfect. That's another thing that people need to learn. Like, perfection doesn't exist. Do they like Elon Musk? No, they burn his cars. Andrew Tate isn't a good example for young men. He's arrogant and obnoxious. Yeah, well, let me put it this way. I know people that finish med school, and then they get a PhD and a doctorate, and they're single, but they're very well spoken, they're very nice. And then I know drug dealers that are very obnoxious, And they have like a tsunami of pussy heading their way. You know, men behave the way women groom them to behave. Like, if women are into obnoxious men, that's how men are going to be. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't say that sleeping around with the tons of women is a great role model, but no one is perfect. You know, I think like you should look at a person and understand that every human being has qualities and flaws. You ignore the flaws and you just focus on the qualities. With as much work as he does, would he be able to have a normal marriage? Well, Jeff Bezos seems to do it, you know, so. Anyway, right. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you liked the live stream, and thank you for the super chats. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.